First look at a multi-million-dollar development that will continue the evolution of Milwaukee's riverfront, the next step for a new basketball arena downtown, and an innovative program to convert abandoned buildings into affordable housing. This is Council Rewind, and I'm Dustin Weiss. Milwaukee's glut of tax-foreclosed properties meets the long waiting list for affordable public housing. Later in the program, how the Rental Housing Rehabilitation Pilot Program could turn these two crises into opportunity. But first, once a bustling, grimy hub of commerce and industry, Milwaukee's riverfront is finding new life as apartments and condos continue to rise. The long, low buildings are meant to evoke images of the tall ships that used to make port there. And on December 8th, the Zoning, Neighborhoods, and Development Committee heard one of the most ambitious proposals to date.
Back in 2009, this site, which is in the Walker's Point strategic planning area in the near South Side Plan, just across the river from the 3rd Ward, there was a detailed plan development that was approved by Common Council for a 3-story tower building along the river. 19 stories was proposed, and there were 2 unit scenarios that were approved as part of that approved plan development. One was for 186 residential units and 128 hotel rooms, or 152 residential units and 236 hotel rooms. So that development never proceeded, was never constructed, and so the current DPD proposal before you today is for 164 units, and there'd be a 12-story mixed-use residential building with first-floor commercial space. The development team and the architect worked with planning staff to really push parking away from the street and really activate the corner and have lobby and entrance and commercial space and try to internalize the parking as much as possible. This is a tight site in terms of getting access for indoor parking. And there will be 225 parking spaces proposed compared to the 411 that were previously proposed.
The project is on this side of the river. It is currently occupied by some boat trailers and some. It's a parking lot, but it's surrounded by a chain link fence. So it's, for the most part, it's not accessed by the public. There are some boat slips currently on the river, but other than that, it's mostly scrub trees and some asphalt. It's located on the corner of South Water and Pittsburgh Avenue, the orange rectangle, as you know, right on the river. Go to the next slide. These pictures show you the context. The upper left is from across the river looking back at the site. It's the area with the scrub trees. You can see the Pittsburgh Avenue Bridge. This is the Pittsburgh Avenue Bridge. That's the site there. Those are the existing boat slips down below. The bridge is about 9 feet above the other half of the site, and that'll enter in when we get to the site plan. This is on South Water Street. Looking back at the site, you can kind of see the chain link fence around it. And then that's standing over at the new Merrimont Social, looking back at the site towards the east. Upper left is South Water Street, looking at the 6-story condominium building that is immediately to the west of our building. And then this is looking west on Pittsburgh, David Winograd's South Water Works building there, the 5-story apartment building. And then our site is right here in comparison to that picture. Site plan. The building occupies almost the entire site. As you can see by the orange shape on the site, there is the gray area over on Pittsburgh. That is a small porch area that you walk up onto, and that's the entrance to the tower. Back up one more. Oh, sorry. And then there is the unnamed street, which I believe we're calling Oregon now, or Stub End Street, which allows access to our parking along the river. There's also a new Riverwalk extension that you enter up on Pittsburgh, and you come down 9 feet and end up at this end where you would link up to a future extension, or you can exit out back onto South Water when this project is complete. So this one shows the actual shape of the tower. These are the residential floors. This is the 4th floor, but there are 7 floors like this. And you can kind of see the shape of the tower if you follow that spine, which is the corridor. It's a bit of an S shape. And when you're on Pittsburgh looking at it, that's the effect you get. You're on Pittsburgh, you're looking at South Water Works, and then our building is in the distance with its S-shaped tower. This is the 11th floor. The 12th floor is only a partial floor. There's a small fitness center up there. But other than that, it's mostly an 11-story building. You can see the retail portion that would animate South Water. And then you can see the 2-story lobby that you would see when you're coming down Pittsburgh. This is a close-up of approaching the building, 2-story lobby, apartments above that, the retail. This is just kind of a name that we put in there. We don't actually have a tenant for that space yet. And then we have some lighting features on that building that would, kind of animate that street at night and provide some interest. The materials of the building are all metal panels. So we have black metal panels, and then we have this combination of 3 different colors of, I like to call it rust. It's based on a pixelation of an actual piece of rusted metal. It's meant to recall kind of the industrial rusted past of the site, and even the present, because there's still quite a bit of that still in the area. This is on South Water looking back towards the building. You can see the retail area, the entrance over there on Pittsburgh, and then this is the unnamed street with the access to the parking garage down below. And clear glass everywhere. There are no spandrel panels. Trying to make everything look alive and inviting. Every apartment has a balcony. This is from the river looking back, obviously. All the curved portions of the building have the multicolored panels, and then all the flat portions have the dark panels. And here you can get your first real glimpse of what that Riverwalk is like. You come from Pittsburgh here down a little ramp onto what we're calling an amenity space. And then you can go down a little bit further and end up on the lowest level of the Riverwalk and continue on your way from there.
The amount, the prices of the units, do you have a ballpark figure of what's the low price? Is there any pricing for market rate? Is it all high end? Or what? How could, if I wanted to live there, since I'm retired and I could live there, if I wanted to live there, how much would I be out of?
It's going to depend on the size of the unit. To be anywhere from approximately $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the size of a 1-bedroom and efficiency. We have efficiencies of 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and 3-bedrooms.
So is any of the parking underground, or is there a plinth that the S sort of goes around?
The lowest level is half underground.
Yeah, okay.
It would be exposed to the river if it wasn't under the Riverwalk.
And did you explore going deeper with the underground, and was it the groundwater and the expense was too high, or?
Yeah, that was the formula there.
Okay, so when I'm seeing the plinth there, right? And you have sort of a scattered window, or are those windows, or are those just, what are those?
Those are backlit illuminated strips.
Okay.
But underneath that is there are windows on the ground floor.
So you've got on the ground floor on all sides is the parking surrounded, or what about facing the Riverwalk?
Facing the Riverwalk, we have apartments. There is a section about 20% of that side that would have windows looking into the parking.
First of all, I wanted to state we're excited about the development. We like the density it's bringing to the area. We're excited about the Riverwalk addition. This will actually be the first portion of the Riverwalk in the Harbor District area, so we're very excited about that. Just a quick comment to follow up on Alderman Perez's comments. To the southeast of this development is the city-owned right-of-way, the stub-end street. We are currently in the beginning process of putting together a water and land use plan for this area. And then Vanessa already mentioned the Walker's Point area plan, which talked about the desire for green space in the area and quality access to the waterfront. And in our early outreach efforts, which we've done surveys, focus groups, stakeholder interviews, we're repeatedly hearing the desire for high quality access to the water's edge and to the waterfront in the area. So we'd like to just encourage to continue working with the developer and the other parties to make sure that we maximize the use of that publicly owned right-of-way, which will have to be reconstructed or essentially constructed. It's gravel right now as part of this project.
When the developers first sat down, we were all conscious and mindful of what had been proposed several years ago, and that whatever development would be below that proposed height in a very tasteful way of maximizing the site, and I think they've done that. They did present at the Walker's Point. We held this over a cycle so that, this has been the buzz in the Walker's Point area. It was front and center at the Walker's Point Association meeting, presented, and the only concerns that have been brought to my office are the stub end and some of the traffic going north and south on South Water Street, which we're going to work with the city to do, and we're just looking forward to the project.
This is an extremely attractive building, and I think a dramatic improvement compared to the previously approved in terms of even height, scope, and even overall attractiveness as well too. So much kudos. I think that you hit it. You hit the Goldilocks zone here with the not too big, not too small, just right. In the attractiveness and overall appearance of it is really, really top notch.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could,
Mum.
just some closing comments. As everyone will recall, or most people will recall, I did not support the Riviana project back in 2009. I did think it was too tall, and I argued very strenuously that design guidelines be established for the south side of the river as they now exist for the north side of the river. So there was some sense of symmetry and continuity and consistency as we develop the Milwaukee River corridor, which will undoubtedly develop. I mean, there is now this building proposed, there is vacant land to the southeast. I'm sure at some point that will be developed. The grain elevator may or may not be kept there. That may be removed. And then, of course, development potential all the way around the Horn as you go into the harbor area with some very elegant views of the harbor and of the lake and the Hone Bridge and the whole environment that the lakefront and the river offer. I mean, real estate abhors a vacuum. We leave this stuff vacant forever. People are going to start coming in with projects. They're going to seek to maximize highest and best use for that land. It's expensive real estate, so they'll be looking to maximize density consistent with costs of construction. So I was very much before we started putting shovels in the ground and building foundations, I wanted to see design guidelines on both sides of the river. That did not come to fruition. The then alderman was strongly opposed to that. Current alderman, not so much opposed, but still a work in process. Bottom line is, this is a substantial improvement over what was approved before and is in fact the zoning for the site as we sit today and could be built today if someone had the financing. So I'm going to support this project. I mean, it would be very easy to just take a token no vote. I've explained this will pass. If I vote no, it'll pass 14-1. And so as a practical matter, that's a token effort. I would like to renew the effort to generate some design guidelines for the south side of the river as we inevitably face these same development pressures going forward. Perhaps this building becomes the new design guideline, that this 110 feet becomes the maximum. That'd be fine. But I'm sure we're going to start seeing proposals perhaps that exceed that as developers obviously want to maximize their return. I understand that. That's not a bad thing. That also maximizes the tax base in the process.
The committee and the council approved the Riviana plans, clearing the way for development. One of the biggest news stories of 2015, plans for a new Milwaukee Bucks basketball arena are now moving forward with the public support of the city, the county, and the state. Here at City Hall, the project's next hurdle is getting approval to take over parts of 4th and 5th Street. The closure of 4th Street in particular proved to be a big hang-up in the debate over city assistance for the project. So the file directing the Department of City Development to prepare plans for the closure sparked some discussion at the December 2nd meeting of the Public Works Committee.
Just for the edification of everybody watching on TV, these are street vacation files in connection with the Bucks Arena and related developments. This action today merely directs the Department of City Development to prepare the paperwork for a consideration of the vacation requests that the Bucks have made to the City of Milwaukee. This does not approve any specific street vacation or alley vacation by the vote today. So this is essentially a non-controversial issue in the sense that the city that is, did agree in the development agreement to initiate this process, but the city has not yet agreed to approve the process in favor of vacation, especially as to 4th Street. The other files relating, in some of these cases, they're not even streets, and there's not even alleys. They're just rights-of-way. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're not actually eliminating any existing roadway infrastructure. 4th Street is a separate file for a specific reason. That's item 7, because I suspect that one will be the subject of perhaps public hearings and perhaps extensive commentary and public testimony, whereas the others, I believe 6th Street is item 6. I mean, that has to be done because that's where the arena is going to be built physically, correct?
Yes.
So as a practical matter, item 6 I don't think will receive much controversy. Item 8 involves a bunch of rights-of-way which don't now exist in physical form, correct?
That's correct.
Item 7 will be the main event, and I suspect there'll be a lot more commentary and testimony about this. So I just wanted to make that, what I said basically correct from your perspective?
Yes, Kyle Gass, Department of City Development. You summarized it pretty well.
Okay.
There are 3 separate files, and if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer them.
Okay, so unless there's questions or comments on the process as opposed to the substance, Alderman Wade would move to recommend.
Chairman.
Alderman Davis.
You know, and thank you for being the champion of this file. We were down at Nashville
Right.
at the Bridgestone
Right.
Arena when the Country Music Awards were being held. And it's interesting, as I paid attention to the hotel that I stayed at, that there is a public right-of-way that is operating not during the times of events where they can actually have through traffic, and closed down during the times of the event to create a plaza. So it was just ironic that when Alderman Bauman made that motion and fought to advocate for 4th Street to remain open, and people came to the table saying that it would kill a deal. We do have an example down in Nashville that the public right-of-way can exist to continue to make sure that the public has access to the convention center and the arts department, the arts museum that's all in that area. And then they actually closed it down and had maybe multiple concerts with tents up during the Country Music Awards. So there is value to, just analyze things as council members come forward with ideals. And we just want to make sure that I raised the question and also confirm that there is an example in a major city market like Milwaukee that can utilize to exist, to have a public right-of-way and close it down. And it was very much secured. So thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
you're 100% right. I saw the same thing with my own eyes, and I got a whole bunch of pictures depicting the arrangement as well, and that is a good example. And of course, we'll have this discussion in the next couple of months. So Alderman Davis would therefore move to recommend adoption of these 3 files, and hearing no objection, so ordered.
The council greenlit DCD to prepare a plan for handing over 4th Street, but whatever they come up with will still need council approval. In 2015, the city of Milwaukee sold 501 properties that it was forced to seize due to non-payment of property taxes. It's the biggest success for efforts to mitigate the effects of the foreclosure crisis since the crisis began. But the city still owns more than 1,200 properties. However, the old saying is that hidden in every crisis is an opportunity. On December 8th, the Zoning, Neighborhoods, and Development Committee heard how this surplus of foreclosed property could be used to address the long wait list for affordable public housing.
When the 2015 budget was adopted, an amendment was added to the budget to provide $1 million to renovate city-owned properties as a rental portfolio and to manage them and to see how that worked out in terms of a number of parameters. I'm coming to you today with a resolution to authorize the expenditure of those funds and to enter into a contract with Friends of Housing Incorporated as the vendor for those funds. We have formed an objective for this project. We want to take a look at what the costs and benefits are of actually maintaining a rental portfolio within our portfolio of foreclosed properties. We want to look at how much money is required to renovate properties that are in a manner that will attract good tenants. What are the operating costs for such properties? What are the appropriate rent levels? And what's the best way to attract and retain high-quality tenants, including some tenants that might have the possibility of becoming homeowners at the end of the pilot period. So the approach we're taking on this project, we're going to identify 20 to 30 properties, 1 and 2 family residential properties that will be renovated for rental. They'll be managed as affordable rentals for up to 3 years, and we will sell them at the end of that 3-year period, unless we'll have the opportunity to evaluate, but that as time goes on, but that's the plan right now. The budget amendment provided $1 million for this project. We'll be spending this money first by providing 100% of the cost of renovation to the vendor. The rents, net of the expenses, the out-of-pocket expenses to manage the properties will be returned to the city, and we will be tracking all of that very carefully. And the vendor will have fees related to construction management, property management, and we will establish a reserve also that can be used in case there is some very unexpected emergency with respect to any of the properties in the portfolio.
Question.
Baumann?
We retain title?
Yes, we retain title.
So they'll remain tax exempt?
That's right. That was, I believe, and I think you made that point when this idea was originally discussed, that property taxes are part of the expense of operating a rental portfolio. And so by keeping these in city ownership, we'll avoid that expense and perhaps be able to have more affordable rents as a result.
What about property insurance?
Property insurance, I think that's something we expect that we will continue to have the property insurance handled by the city of Milwaukee.
So we'll
Yes.
self-insure these properties?
Yes, as the owner. We used a competitive procurement process to choose the vendor. We issued a request for qualifications, asking for capacity in both property renovation and property management. We received 4 proposals after having an informational meeting earlier that had additional people responding, but in the end, we received 4 proposals. We evaluated them based on the experience and capacity of the vendor and the costs of management and construction fees. We have selected Friends of Housing Corporation as the vendor. Friends of Housing, for which Armando is the executive director and has been, I think, for nearly 20 years. Is that correct?
Since 98.
98, okay, 17 years. They manage 292 scattered site properties in Milwaukee, in addition to many multifamily buildings. They have a longstanding partnership with the Housing Authority and actually manage a number of the Housing Authority multifamilies. They also have brought 3 small business enterprise partners into this project, Quorum Architects, which will actually develop scopes of work and manage construction, and Atlas Contractors and Better Way Construction will actually be doing the construction work. So the vendor that will engage will first work with our department to identify the properties to be renovated. They'll prepare the scope of work and cost estimates for moderate rehabilitation. They will take care of the renovation of properties, prepare them for occupancy, and then they'll take on the management responsibilities, which includes marketing them, identifying and screening tenants, entering into leases, periodic inspections, of course, responding to requests for repairs and other services from tenants, handling routine maintenance, rent collection, and we hope there won't be any evictions, but if that's necessary, that'll be their responsibility as well. So the next steps to implement this project, we'll enter into a contract with the vendor. Assuming this resolution is approved, we'll select the properties together. The vendor, Quorum Architects, will be writing the scopes of work, doing cost estimates. Our staff will approve them or modify them as necessary. Construction will be underway, and the lease-up will be underway when the units are complete, and we will provide an annual performance report to the council so you know what the dollars and cents are and the other practical issues involved in implementing this project.
Have we targeted neighborhoods for this here yet? I know that, is this part of the ongoing discussion that we had in some of the meetings exceeding a little more than a year ago.
Right. We're expecting that most of the properties here will be in the 15th and 6th Aldermanic districts, just because we have such a large number of projects there. But we'll be working along with Armando to actually make property selections, and we continue to have expansions to our portfolio of projects, so we have a good number of properties to choose from.
Right. And the hope is, through the Friends of Housing, that there was an effort to want to create synergy, one, to make a difference in the neighborhood, two, logistically as well, it assists with the management and control and maintenance of these individual properties as well.
Correct.
That's exactly right.
So this is part of the 2015 budget.
That's correct.
Do we also have money appropriated in 2016?
No, we did not seek an authorization because we had not gotten the project started yet. So we'll get this underway, and I think by the middle of next year, we'll be in a position to determine whether we want to expand this project or not.
So if you have any good ideas for next year, you had to think of them last year.
Or somehow we tie a windfall in from Aquin or someone else here as well, too, to expand.
Well, there's always, we can move money around. We've done that before. If this suddenly, because and we selected 20 to 30 as what $1 million would renovate, basically?
That's exactly right. And then the exact number of units is going to be a kind of a Rubik's Cube of how much expense is required to renovate individual projects.
I just wanted to thank DCD for the movement on this file. You know, when we started this in the 2015 budget, you know, we all had ideas about how it could come to fruition, but DCD definitely helped shape and mold it. And we did have an opportunity to see all of the proposals that were submitted, and we also are pleased that Friends of Housing got it, because out of the proposals, they seem to have the most comprehensive one that could bring to fruition the thoughts and ideas that we each had when we first voted for the opportunity to try out this process. It is our sincere hope, though, that this helps not only to revitalize a few properties, but to revitalize some neighborhoods that are direly in need of it. So, of course, we would urge you to support it so that we can, see how this works.
Congratulations to Friends of Housing. Their proposal was pretty effective, and we look forward to working with them in this model. We're going to use this as a model to implement in the future. Martha Brown did a great job in analyzing the different proposals, and they did have the best. And what I'm looking forward to is to determining how much money will the city be able to produce versus how much money Friends of Housing is going to charge us for the project, and the expenses versus the revenue. So we can use that money to recirculate it to continue this program in the future. So we're waiting on 20 houses to be identified. We're going to take the model of clustering the homes in a certain area so we can get the best bang for our buck, and hopefully we can do it in an area that borders Alderwoman Coggs and my district. So congratulations, and I'm going to thank Martha and Friends of Housing for responding, and I look forward to this project.
The rental housing rehab program passed with unanimous support of the council. And that's a look back at some of the important issues discussed in recent Common Council business. For the City Channel and Council Rewind, I'm Dustin Weiss.